Yeah.
Okay. All right, ladies. It's 8:01.
8:01.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's April 14th. Can't believe it is mid-April already. I thought we just got here, right? And we are going to be going through what we all just agreed with is probably the most important meaty part of the book, and is almost too much to handle in the pages that we originally discussed. So we're just going to focus on two of the models, which is the economic model and the lead generation model. And I will tell you again from last week, 123, page 123 in the red book is where we have a nice visual as to what the four models are, what the flow of the four models are. And I'd like for us to, if we could just put these words next to the models before we get started. Economic model, think. Lead generation model, earn. Budget model, net. An organizational model, receive. So those are ultimately what those models mean in your business. And let's get started. Let's get started on page 119, just to start off the earn a million, which is what we're discussing. We're discussing an actual model to the madness, a model to a goal of how much income we want to make in our business. Now, I will tell you that this book has been a conversation with me and a car dealer, and me and a guy who had a painting job. I mean, you can take these models. These are business models. How much money do you want to make? So we're going to get into them, but I want us to think business. We're not just thinking real estate sales. We are business owners. So this is how to wait on your path to earn a million. If a man knows not what harbor he seeks, any wind is the right wind. And often we talk with our colleagues in this business, and if I do well this year, if I could just make, and no, what is the goal? And so on the bottom it says our focus in this book is up to now has been mostly on insight and perspective, facing your fears and thinking big. We've been studying the art of real estate sales success. It is now the time to turn our attention to another focus. It's time to be instructional. We've seen the art, and now it's time to discover the science of this. Models matter. Onto the next page, and on the bottom it says, it turns out that these four models are foundational. They represent the four areas everyone must ultimately tackle on the way to high real estate sales achievement. In a nutshell, here's what they teach. And so we go into the four models. And as I'm developing a coaching program with Patty, we're looking at models too. Models are showing up. We're working the models. We can take these models, and I've applied these models to coaching as well. Ladies, anything on models for you?
No, this is the paint by numbers of real estate. If you just follow it, because as I was reading through the chapters, I realized, how many things I had done over my career that were the models, not knowing that I was following the models, and how much I can tweak at this point. So it's not brain science. Someone else has invented the wheel.
That's right. And if you look at page 125, it gives the just the picture, the image of it says a hobo shack versus a house built on a solid foundation. Do you ever try to put together your kids' play kitchen, and if you don't follow the directions, it might be wobbly and backwards and a shelf is missing? Okay, so Orly, same thing. Paint by numbers, models in the business, instructions, ladies. So on 126, we feel this all the time. On the left is creativity off of a model. This is where, as we get into the one thing, you'll see that this is the unbalanced, balanced life. There's no such thing as a balanced life. You're just constantly teetering on that line of everything, in control. And so you're going to be off on one side and then off on the other. However, the option is to have a creative business without a model. And that could be all over the place, chasing shiny objects, trying this, trying that, getting defeated, being excited, highs and lows of the business.
And we've all been there. We've all been there. We're looking for the magic pill.
So Warren Buffett, who arguably the greatest investor of all time, understood how to be faithful to models. They reference Warren Buffett on page 127. And it says, Buffettology. The author writes that Buffett believed that one learns through experience and not from experience, from those with experience. In other words, the greatest investor of our time, possibly of all time, understood the power of learning from others and following models. Later, after getting some professional investing experience, Buffett vowed not to make another investment until he had read security analysis.
12 more times. That amazes me. I was like, wow. Talk about a student of models. He internalized it.
And that's what we have to do. And that's what mastering skills, mastering models, you will study it over and over again. We talk about, oh, I went to that class. Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Oh, I've heard that message before.
Yeah, I'll never forget when I did a seminar and somebody said, oh, are you going to go hear Orly speak? And one guy said to the other, nah, I've heard her speak. It's just a lot of hard work. So,
oh, goodness.
You got to do the work.
And
let's jump into the economic model.
Okay, so moving over to page 129. Now, I want to say that this will get repeated, right? So the first introduction in the book about the economic model is just understanding the model and how it works. Like we started the book, Gary did not think that, the okay agent, the $100,000 agent was not going to be the sexiest title. This is the millionaire real estate agent. This is models to get yourself to the $1 million. However, it's a journey. It's a journey. As Orly shared last week, her first year in real estate, she earned $7,000. That is not the case today. So it does take a while. No, it doesn't take a while. It takes it's progress. It's progress daily.
It can take a good year. It can take a good year, but you're building it over a foundation, and you don't know what you don't know. There's so much that you don't know that you don't know. You don't know how many sales you're going to do. You don't know how much money you need. I mean, by following these models, at least you have a guide.
Well, and Orly, I think what happens is if we have a sales business of 10, 12, 24 homes a year, Patty, Orly, we can manage that. We can really manage that. It might feel a little crazy, right? But
absolutely, up to 30 transactions, I think it's manageable, but you're working. You're working.
So the minute you start to bring other things into your business, other expenses arrive, different energies have to be, training has to happen. So you do start to realize things as you go on with the business. And just as if when you have one listing, then you have 2, 3 listings at a time, then you have 5 listings and 10 under contract. These are all different stages of learning that, oh, geez, I should have systemized, or geez, let me revisit my average price point.
But that's the key. You just said the word systemize, because if you do anything more than twice, if you make it into a system, and you'll be more organized, and it'll be better. It'll be easier. That's the key. It'll be easier.
I think Mary Beth and Orly and everybody, what's coming to my mind is good is the enemy of great.
Yes.
And
there's a book, Patty, right?
Yeah.
So but more than that, I think you're spinning your wheels more when you don't systematize.
Yeah.
Where if you have a system, you're an automatic pilot. So even if it, in an hour of a day, you're following up on pending transactions. That's your hour to follow up on pending transactions, as opposed to lead genning, following up on a home inspection issue, going back to whatever. So because you'll go crazy. You'll go crazy.
So if I could say what the economic model is, and I'd love to be able to show us an example. The economic model, it says, now, whether you realize it or not, and on page 129, you have an economic model. You absolutely do. We're just going to filter all these numbers in, and we're going to tell you what your economic model is. Or you get to decide what you'd like your economic model to look like. Either way, it's going to happen. It's like your day is going to happen. Either you're going to schedule it or you're going to run somebody else's schedule. So it says the issue is not about having an economic model, but rather the issue is whether you understand that one you have and whether it can get you the net income that you want. A sound economic model should do 3 basic things for you. Show you where your money comes from, gross revenue, GCI, gross revenue. Show you where your money goes, expenses, and we're going to talk about 2 different types of expenses. And 3 is show you how much is left for you, which is your net income. And I love that we talk to our agents this way, in that this isn't a feeling kind of business. This is how much do you want to make? Let's work backwards. So the 3 key areas of your economic model are focus on the numbers that you must hit, focus on your appointments, and the other one is focus on conversion rates. Now, I'd like to have some conversation around this for a second. If you look at page 131, this is where, when I typically do this exercise, and done this many times as a team leader, many times as a coach, 17 years. And this is what will help you at any time. If you are stuck in your business, you're feeling maybe not motivated, you don't know where to start, you got off the wagon, you went on vacation too long, now you got to get back on. Maybe it's mid-year and you're feeling like, I don't think I'm going to be able to hit my goal. You can make an adjustment for a 4-month economic model, a 12-month economic model. Okay, so what I will always ask the person is, on the bottom line, it says net income. We don't need to start at the top. We start at the bottom. What do you want to see in your pocket to pay taxes on at the end of this year? What is it? Now, I see some of us here have teams. Some of us are individual agents. If you are a team, this is still the question to you, individual Paula, individual Diana. What would you like to make when you've paid your buyer's agents, you've paid your seller's agents, you've paid your admin? What would you like to make? So when we talk about the budget model, we go into what you're going to spend on all of those expenses. But when we identify that, we go ahead and plug them into the next line, which is expenses. Now, something that we don't think about as individual agents are the referral fees that we pay out. So when you do all of your businesses coming from referrals, a great example is Karen Kleiman. 80% of her business comes from other agents referring her in. Not a bad business. Mm-hmm. However, there is a 25% cost of sale that goes out every time she closes a commission check. Not a bad thing. She just needs to account for it. Mm-hmm. Because if I said, well, I want to make 100,000, I want to make $1 million, and I don't account for 25% being shared out to the referring agent, well, I'm going to be 25% short of my goal at the end of the year. And I'm not going to know why, because I didn't factor that in. Right. So when we talk about your expenses, there are all different things that we will talk with you through to identify those expenses. Some of those expenses are going to be your broker fee, your royalty fee, your marketing, your administrative costs, your cost of sale. I want us to understand really clearly, cost of sale is anything that happens, any fee that happens only when you close a transaction. Like that referral fee is a cost of sale. You're not paying for it regardless whether that sale happens or not. Your commission to the broker, your royalty to the broker, that's a cost of sale. In our Keller Williams world, that stops at some point, which is nice. So you could just put the cap dollar in that expense line.
So not the advertising, Mary Beth.
No, that's
the advertising is operating expenses, Paula.
Right. Got it.
Operating expenses. Those happen, right, honey? Whether you're making money or not, that's going out the door.
Yeah, I think the real good definition, if the expense is attached to a transaction, then it's a cost of the sale.
That's right. That's right. And so for when we have buyer's agents, because I know Paula has some, if the buyer's agent split on your team is the cost of sale for those transactions. And so that's that is definitely more than the 25. So you got to really factor that in. And I'd be happy to sit with anybody who's at a higher level to discuss that on your budget model. But once we've identified what your expenses are, you plug it right in there. So now it makes sense what you want to take home plus what you need to spend in order to make the money. If you add those two up, that's what you need to make to satisfy both of those categories, right?
Right.
So then you have your total gross revenue. That becomes your total GCI that you need to see to come in. When we look at that, this is where, Mike Bastian, who is a brilliant maps coach, brilliant numbers man. He had me look at this extremely differently. If I were to ask you, let's shout some things out. Your seller versus buyer business. What kind of business are you intending on for 2021? Seller versus buyers, percentage-wise.
75% seller, 25. That's what
Diana's
I'm saying.
going to go 75 seller
Yeah,
and 25 buyer.
Okay, so that was what I put down originally, but I really just dug deep on first quarter and we did it 50-50, I'd say.
Okay, I love it. Awesome. Great job. She just made my point is the market is 50-50. For every listing, there is a sale. So if we are not a 50-50 business, which listen, there's times in the business that you're more buyer heavy, you're more seller heavy. There's just an adjustment that needs to be made. To me, that says that Diana has leveraged herself well with buyer agents or show agents or people who could take the leads that actually come off of the listings.
Mhm.
Because I've seen listing agents who, Diana's point is they get to 75% listing side because they just can't deal with the people, all of the leads that come, they're servicing the sellers.
You couldn't possibly be in that many places if you're looking at a bigger number. It's just physically impossible. So that's actually made the difference, leveraging that.
Yep. And so when we decide right here, and so for most new agents, I'll ask them and they'll say, probably 25% listings and 75% buyers,
In the
right?
beginning,
In the beginning, that happens. Although in this year and last year, it's been hard to, Patty, it's been hard to coach our agents to that concept because listings is really where they can control the potential income this year.
Yeah. Working with buyers, as everybody on this call knows, is really difficult. It's
But the
painful.
reality is you work with a buyer, they're not paying you. You work with a seller, you've got 1 hour to go on an interview and make it or break it. That's it. And that's hard when you don't have the experience and the skills. So it's more intimidating for newer agents to go after listings. A, the listing opportunities, let's start there. And B, the skills to convert them, where a buyer will schlep around with you forever because it's not costing them anything. And then your skill level is to convert them and close them. So you're not schlepping them around for 6 months or a year.
Now, I see somebody on here, Ron Lugashi, Ron Lugashi's got it down. Ron, you're welcome to just pop on if you can. If not, I understand. But Ron does a buyer series every Thursday. And last night he was on the Career Builder 6 o'clock class. You can get Ron every single week and you can get his amazing knowledge. The man closed 45 buyers last year in 2020. That's
Amazing.
that's a lot of buyers. Okay, so he has definitely got the skill. There you go, Ron, if you'd like to just say a little something, but he's got the skill to get those buyers closed. And I'm sure, as I know, he's working harder than ever.
Yeah.
And he has a commitment to his family to make those goals.
Right.
So Ron, how are you doing that?
I'm working hard, improving my skill set as everybody else is. We know that it's when your skill set improves, your conversion improves. So if you're looking to, convert at a higher level, you just have to do some footwork.
That's right.
Obviously, when the intensity and the frequency that we work at, the amount of conversations, meetings, experiences we have on a daily basis, it fast forwards our development. So you have to get out there more and as often as you can.
Thank you. Right. So you're plunging in, and he's got a great point there. The way we get better is we do more. We practice it more. And somebody said, oh, I'm going to practice it on real live clients. Don't be practicing on real live clients. We have plenty of opportunities. Every morning you can get on the mindset call. There's role play going on. Our lead generation rooms happen every day of the week. Our classes. So there's no need to practice on clients. All right, so to the point of the decision at this point is from the total gross revenue, we're going to decide how much of my business will come from sellers, how much will come from buyers. And this is where it's okay if it's not 50-50, but just understand that the market is 50-50. Eventually, you'd like to build the business to that type of business. And if you get to 50-50, let's say your gross revenue was $1 million. Now you're going to set 50% of it is going to come over to the seller side. And we put that number right there on the bottom, which is gross revenue from sellers. So you'd put half of that number right there. The other number would go to the right side, which is the buyer side. Deciding on how you're going to split that up. But be careful because there's a couple of slots here. We're going to go on the left side, the seller side. The percentage commission that you take at the table will dictate how many appointments you'll need to go on to make that money. So that is a number that you can improve. The average sales price is also a number that you can choose what area of focus you will spend marketing time, prospecting hours in. That's something that you can improve. You can move the needle. Not saying you don't deny listings if they're motivated and you need to help a seller. However, if you want to pick up a farm and you want to increase your price point, maybe you look at a farm that's 200,000 more than what you were closing the year before. The next move up. And I think that happens with time. Mm-hmm. And as seasoned agents, we also tend to go where we're comfortable. And sometimes if we're really looking to increase the value of our business, we have to think a little differently and say, what neighborhood could I pick up that makes sense to what my other business? Now, here's what I'll tell you. On a listing appointment, you get to control your listing side. You do. My script was always, my fee is 3%. Now let's decide what we're going to give to the buyer agents that work extremely hard. I advise 3%. If I had to, we could go to 2.5%, but that's the industry standard. So now we're at 5.5% listings, but I protected my 3% side. I think agents, that's a seasoned thing because at some point you start to realize I'm not giving away my money at the table. I'm going to work really hard for this. And then we get to, if you divide the commission, so here you have your gross revenue and you divide the commission into it to identify how much volume do you need to sell at that commission to make that gross income. Okay. And then when you take the average price point, so now you know how much volume you need to sell on the seller side. Now you divide it by your average price point on the seller side, because we all also know that your seller average volume may be different than your buyer average volume. And so your seller average volume gets divided into the volume you need to close to make the commission you want. And then you are ended up with how many sellers actually need to close for the year. Once you've identified, okay, so now I need to close 10 sellers. I need to close 100 sellers at an average price of blah with an average commission of blah, and that's going to generate me my GCI. Well, now here comes the skill. Here comes, how many appointments have you been on lately? How good are you at converting that seller to a signed listing agreement? And how good are you at pricing them properly and marketing them properly that they're going to go to the closing table? And that is the other two percentage conversion rates. So let's go to the left side and take it from top down. This would identify for you, I need to go on X amount of seller appointments. I will convert 65 to 80% of them. That means I will take X amount of listings. I will sell 65 to 80% of them. I will sell X amount of listings at an average price of this. So that means I will sell this much volume at an average commission of this, which will give me this much commission on my seller commission side. Now, if you really do this, you will have built in your fallout.
Mhm.
Your fallout is built in those conversion rates. Let's talk about this. It's funky. Funky monkey, what's going on? It's kind of simple.
Well, the fallout rate, it used to be the average was 1 out of 10. And now with the crazy market that we're having, especially on the buyer's side, the fallout rate, at least on our price point in our niche, is going to be different for everybody. I would say it almost doubled. It's probably 1 out of 5. It's falling out a lot more often.
So Ron, to that point is when you're doing your buyer side economic model, that's where you would put buyer listing appointment to buyer listing taken to actually going to close. I think where you're saying the fallout is happening is I had the appointment with the buyer, but they did not secure a contract. So that number may have to be 20%, which we've never put 20% there. The lowest we've ever put is 65. However, in today's market, if that's what you're experiencing and you're tracking your numbers, well, that's what you got to put because that's your
Reality.
numbers.
Yeah, the buyers are, they're all over the place. You hold on to them best you can. And all of a sudden, they're losing 1, 2, 3, and they go to a for sale by owner. They lose 1, 2, 3. They go direct to a listing agent. They're looking for ways to get a roof over their head, so they're scrambling. And the sense of urgency is very, very high amongst many, many buyers in today's market. So I think that the likelihood of holding on to them is less now than, let's say, in other markets.
My dad used to say, you can't compete, but you can. And it would be because, you know what, he would say, you just got to get up back more. So this is a market where, all right, do we want to win? If we want to win, we got to understand what the market is doing and what it's bringing us. And if those conversion ratios are down to 20% right now, plug that in and get yourself, to Ron's point, on more appointments. Get yourself out to an open house where you could pick up 3 and 4 buyers at a time. Throw a Facebook lead ad out there for buyer leads. If you're like, okay, I understand, I got to go on 20 buyer appointments to actually get 2 contracts.
And is excuse me, I'm sorry, Ron, isn't it like more deep conversations with each buyer? Because when they say, I'm only calling the listing agent because they think that's the way they're going to secure that listing, they'll have an edge. We explain why that's not so true. So I'm having to explain more. I'm actually I'm helping out my buyer's agents in getting them to work with that buyer, because otherwise they would have just said, well, it's not available. Oh, well, I'm going to, forget it. So I'm like really getting into conversations with these buyers where I wasn't before.
Yeah, I was going to say something very similar to what Paula just said. So it's not necessarily, definitely a solution is getting more leads. Yet another solution is asking, what can I do better? And communicating value and improving my skill set will help me on the conversion end also. So it's an opportunity for us to also to improve our skill. We have to see it as such. Obviously we're all going to have different kinds of experiences when it comes to buyers and sellers and renters and investors and whatnot. And yet every single meeting conversation we have is an opportunity to also ask ourselves the question, what could I have done better to arrive at the outcome that I was looking for? So it's an opportunity for us to improve our skill as well, not just say, you know what, maybe I should just get more leads.
I think also our value proposition. So when I'm at an open house, or really now it's me trying to teach buyers agents the same thing. Like, what do we do different? They think they're going to go to the listing agent at these things. Oftentimes, most of my time is spent talking to anybody that I'm working with, that I'm giving leads to, about really how to work the open house, how to speak to people, how to tell them, like, you don't need to point out the bathroom. You don't need to point out this. What I need to do is connect with that person to like and trust me, and then offer them something they're not getting anywhere else. And listen when they're walking around and saying, oh my God, listening to what's important to them. And then when they come back at the end, that's what I spend most of my time doing, showing them and doing it myself. And what's my value proposition? What am I going to offer that you're not going to get from somebody else, and connect them to us? And then it brings up my skill set. It brings up my skill set as a leader. It brings up my skill set as somebody who's to get more listings. Something that you guys said earlier just really struck with me. Like, I need to be doing more of that. I'm not doing enough of that. So.
Yeah, I'm having more buyer conversations. I had a buyer call me yesterday on a house that I listed last week that had 22 offers on Sunday. And I said, where were you last week? It's been on the market. Why didn't your agent? He goes, my agent, something about his agent. I said, why didn't your agent tell you about this? Oh, I'm doing my own research. I said, really?
Yeah.
Are you going to be writing your own contract? Do you go to the dentist and do your own root canal? I said, this is what your agent should be doing for you.
Everybody should use that. Write it down.
You missed an opportunity. Your agent failed you. So next thing you know, he's working with one of my buyer's agents now.
Of course he is.
I just had the same conversation with somebody yesterday. I picked up a nice buyer in the $900,000 price point. Exactly, Orly, almost to the word, but coach, but almost to the word.
I'm gonna show you guys something because we got to move on to lead generation. But this is what I would typically do with our coaching clients. So this is a live example of a economic model done in an Excel document. But this is an example for someone who said they want to make $100,000, and we looked at the expenses and we figured, okay, you're going to need $65,000 to do that. So we have to make 165. And at 165, we broke it down the middle, 50-50, 80-250 coming from the seller side. So as we plug these numbers in, 2.5% commission means that this person needs to close 3.3 million in volume on the seller side, with an average of 400,000 means they only need to close 8 sellers, with an 80% conversion to the sign to the table, sign to the closing table is a high. I mean, it could be 90 or 100% for some, right? And so with the fallout, that means that we have to take 10 listings. And if we have to take 10 listings with a 70% conversion that this person felt that was the confidence level that they had and the numbers that were showing up, they would need to get themselves on 15 listing appointments. So now I just want everybody who is either watching this or, maybe some of your team members, that is not a lot of appointments in 1 year. This is a 12-month plan. So now 15 sellers is the name of the game. Because guess what? The right side, the buyer side, it's all going to happen when you have those listings, because you're going to have leads that come off of them. You're going to have open houses that come from that. So you don't think you could get 16 buyer appointments out of 15 listing appointments?
Totally.
You're going to have even more. So this is now going to roll us into, now here we are. Okay, this is for a beginning agent who has that goal of hitting the 6 figures. You need to go on 15 seller appointments. How are you going to do it? Now, if you're $1 million net income, it's probably more like 150 seller appointments need to be had, which is 1 every 3 days. And it's, how are we going to do it? We're going to do it through the lead generation model. So if we can turn to page 133. And I also want to just stay on that conversion rate, not conversion rate, but the commission. I really want everybody to understand this. If you are an agent that takes 2.5%, 2.5%, 2.5% on the list side, which is very normal, we know how hard we're working. If we start to hone in on that skill and take 3%
or 3.5
or 3.5, but let's just stay with 3% for a second, because I know that number. You're going to give yourself a 17% increase in your income. It's not just 0.5% at the table. It's 0.5% that we also then give away when we're trying to close the deal and negotiate, and our high D comes out. We're like, all right, fine. You know what? Sign the deal and I'm out of here. But that's you giving away 17% of your income. So I really want you to take that number seriously, and you decide what will you be charging your sellers because of the service that you give. Not that you are overcharging them. You're almost undercharging them, but we need to get it up to par.
So, I always like to say, I'm L'Oreal and I'm worth it.
Yes. Yes. L'Oreal. I love it.
Chanel, all the way.
Oh, well, Diana, who do you want to be?
Seriously, it's too early.
Okay. So going into lead generation model, page 133. Lead generation model is the positioning battle. It is the positioning battle. Lead generation model is not just get on your calls every single day, make your calls. Lead generation model is we need to identify who our audience is. We need to have the database. We need to categorize our database. Are they people that we've met, that know us, love us, like us? We've had some sort of encounter. We've talked real estate. We've talked life with them. Or are they people that we don't know, we haven't met, which would be farming, which would be, I'm on the PTO and I have the list. I volunteer at the synagogue and I have the list. And I don't know everybody on it. Those are not met people that we wish to get to the met side. But would you agree that converting somebody to a transaction that already knows you, that's already built rapport, is a little bit easier than somebody you don't know yet?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So why do we focus on people that we don't know?
Because it's the shotgun effect and we feel that it's easier, but it really isn't. Not as effective.
Ladies that have mature businesses, does that hold true in your business? Now your business is a referral-based business, or are you still cold calling?
Both. So you should be doing everything. I mean, we have a yearly marketing plan for unmets, which is the 12 mailings per year. And then we have a marketing plan for what I call my VIPs, which is the Mets. So you should be doing everything and doing the cold calling or the warm calling. So you should really be doing everything in a very systematized, organized way.
So here's what it
has multiple offers, like 50 offers, you have to call around that area. So that's kind of cold calling, I guess.
Yeah. So that kind of cold or warm calling is calling with a purpose because you have a client that needs something.
And you always have a purpose.
You do.
Have a reason to call.
I promise you, somebody in this group, somebody in the 1,600 agents in Bergen County have a buyer for the house that you find, right? So we can be sure that we need houses and we have buyers for your home. So look at page 137. This is the circle. This is the model. This is the graph that when you recognize this, you're like, oh, lead generation model. The outside is the general public, haven't met. Target group, haven't met. What could be the target group? Like I said, the synagogue list, the PTO list. How about the neighborhood? How about the 80 houses on my street when I started? The 300 in the neighborhood, then 300 in the other section, and then 300 in the other section. And then what about the townhouse community that usually buys into this neighborhood? We're going to pick that up too. Those are haven't mets, but those are targeted haven't mets. Then we get tighter. Tighter is the Met group. And that Met group we want to keep on a little special plan. And then the very special people are your allied resources, your one-on-ones. We all have raving fans. We need to treat them well. We take them for granted sometimes. They're our fathers, our spouses, our mothers, our sisters. We need to make sure we meet with them once a month. We pour into them just as much as they're pouring into us. The Met group and the whole Met group, the Met and the allied resources, what the book says here is that there is a 12-to-2 ratio. Now they have changed it since they've rewritten and not published, but rewritten the MREA 2 to 10-to-1. But for the book purposes, it says 12-to-2, that inside of your database, for every 12 people, they're going to need two things. One is going to need to do something, and one's going to need real estate themselves. And the other is going to be able to refer you somebody who needs real estate needs. Now, the book now says 10-to-1. So Gary Keller's conversation around this is 10% of your database is going to need to do something in real estate this year. Are you in the way? So are you in the way? We cannot say, I don't really want to bother them. I don't want to be too much. We have to also understand that if not us, then who? Who will service our database? Who will service our friends, family, people that we care about, that we know we are the best thing for them? Who will service them? Now on the outside ring, those are the haven't mets. That's a different ratio. That ratio is 50-to-1. Okay, that's saying that if I had a community of 300, and this is what it means. If you were to market to them consistently for 18 months, the Met group, the haven't met group, consistently, that means once a month, the 8x8, the 33 touch, we'll touch on that in a second. If you were to consistently market, what you can expect from people that you know is that 1 out of 10, you're going to get a transaction. People you don't know, 50-to-1. So if you have a community of 300, I'm expecting 6 transactions from that community. If I'm doing the right thing, marketing, calling, walking, mailing, being
Mary
there.
Beth, where are these ratios? I got lots underlined, but apparently not that. Where are you finding that?
I will. Way ahead on page 148 and 149.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
148 says ratio of 12:2 and then a 50:1 ratio.
Yep.
Sorry for jumping ahead like that, but what we're talking about is go to page 143. There's your Mets on the one side and your haven't Mets on the other side, and it gives you a little bit of examples. So what they say is you want to do an 8x8, which is 8 touches over 8 weeks, 8 touches over 8 days, 8 touches over 4 weeks, depending on the type of client. And then you want to put everybody on a 33 touch. Now we're talking about a 33 touch, a 36 touch, a 39 touch. There's all sorts of amount of touches, right? Ben Kinney has a 64 touch.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but hear this, and I'll just give you an example of getting to those touches. Could we send 12 pieces in the mail?
Easy.
Easy. Not so expensive either. I mean, we're talking 74 cents in the mail, not touched, a piece. So you show me your budget and I'll show you how many people you can market to on a consistent basis. And we're going to start with your sphere because we have a better ratio than your non. So number one is
The
12 mailers,
Right, 12.
12 emails right there. That's 24.
Right.
Maybe we send 24 emails. Maybe one email is a market snapshot and the other email is a, hey, here's my best buy list. Here's my tips for the week, for the month. Maybe you have an informative, a fluffy one, and you have a market snapshot, right? So you got 2 emails. You have one hard mail. There are plenty of marketing pieces out there to do hard mail. That is 36 touches right there. Then what do we have? We have.
That's without picking up the phone.
So now we could call them 4 times a year. How do we do that consistently? Do the 2 letters a week. 2 letters a week in your database. Do the 2. If you get through 2 letters every week in your database, you will get through your database 4 times a year. It will take you 13 weeks to get through 2 letters a week, which will get you 4 rounds of that. How you doing? Market's great. Da-da-da-da, whatever. There's 4 touches. Now, can we have an event every year? Orally, can we have a shredder party?
Absolutely. Actually, I just did a downsizing seminar by Zoom through the library last week, picked up 22 people were on it. I just picked up 2 listings and future listings by doing the event, calling them all the 2 days afterwards. Now today is my sending them a little note card. So, and now they're in my database, of course. And some of them were VIPs that knew me, but what a great way to connect and continue that relationship.
And seal the deal.
One in the fall as well, because it was so successful.
And seal the deal, because also as a seasoned agent, you just as susceptible for somebody new coming in that's super aggressive to take over those relationships if you're not touching your database. So also you have like a shredder party, you have a Thanksgiving pie giveaway, you do a pop by in the holidays to give them candy apples or chocolates or
Mother's
cookies.
Day is coming up, guys. Do pop buys with Mother's Day gifts.
Go and buy a thing of roses and give 1 rose to every house you stop by. That stuff goes a long way. So those are all touches. So yeah, we could get to the 64 touches really good. Here's the other thing, social media. We haven't even talked about that. Everybody's on social media. You need to add texting and social media touching, not just Facebook posting, Instagram posting. We're talking about messages on the, hey, Cheryl, it was great connecting with you. Oh, the kids look great. Oh, da-da-da-da. Real connection, okay? So as we finish up, and we're going to be moving into the other models next week, on page 145, it talks about systematically marketing to your database. It reviews the things that we were just talking about, an 8x8, which is 8 touches over 8 weeks, a little bit more of what Orly was talking about for her event. what 8 touches could she have around that? She emailed, she called them, she texted them, she showed up on the Zoom, she's following up, she's going to send them a, hey, thanks for attending, handwritten note. And now she's got 8 touches and they know who she is. And now they go on her monthly mailer. And that's the 12 direct. And the 33 touch is what we just talked about, 33, 36, 46, 64, who knows, whatever. Inside 146, 147 gives you some examples of touches. And then we will move into our budget model for next week as we talk about working with sellers.
Excellent.
This was great.
Any ahas? Anybody want to add something?
I
Mary
think
Beth?
the big
Yes, Nicole.
the big
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Does that
No.
the big takeaway, I think, is keeping in touch. And we forget, even though it's like 101 real estate, we get busy with our day and we don't. And all of those touches and the Mother's Day, like you just mentioned, the pop by, whatever. Oh, and that's really important. So I just texted my marketing girl, like, let's be on it. And I wouldn't have otherwise. So thank you.
Awesome. 4th of July is coming up also.
All right, let's take it one at a time. We got Memorial Day, we got a whole bunch of stuff. Okay.
I just followed up with a past client, and in the course of our conversation, her 2 sons bought houses.
There you go. Nicole, did you want to add something?
Yes. So as usual, thank you for a great session. It's amazing. But Mary Beth, would you share that Excel chart with me? I have it in a, hard doc form, but I love an Excel chart. So I would love to have that.
Yeah,
if
sure.
Possible.
I can share it with everybody on here, and it
Thank
also
you.
has formulas.
Yeah, that's what I love.
Yeah. So, also, this is not easy. This is steak to a baby sometimes. It took me years and years to really master the economic and the lead generation model. Here's how they go together. How many touches do we need to get those appointments? Because that's what correlates. The top line, appointments with buyers and sellers. How many touches do we need to get those appointments? And so we have to figure that out. What type of touches work with our audience? Maybe Popeyes won't work with certain people. So what works to get them to want to call us and make an appointment? That is the whole purpose of that. I think sometimes we also make calls. Well, I did my prospecting. Oh yeah, well, I sent my notes out. But did you purposely do it? Like, stay on it. Stay on that relationship. Follow that little sweater string. Pull it. Ask for the referrals.
Did you do it to check it off your list, or did you do it with intention to get an appointment?
And we're only doing this to help people. Because this market, listen, our industry provides people with life-changing events, life-altering events where we can build wealth for people. We could help people out of situations. We can help people into situations. So we need to take it seriously, and we need to help more people. And that's how, if we look at it that way, that we are helping people, it might just be, we might just want to do it more. So, all right, we ended off at page 149. So we will pick up next week at page 149, focus on seller listings, and we'll roll into the budget and the organizational model. All right. Mm-hmm. Ladies, gentlemen, have a fabulous rest of the week. Stay productive.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.